Shalom to you all. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Black Victors. The topic for today's message is doubting God. I'm reading from Exodus chapter 5, verse 1 to 23. In Exodus chapter 4, we learned that Moses tried to avoid his calling by claiming that he had a speech impairment. Regardless of this, God chose to use him as his mouthpiece. Then Moses and Aaron went back to Egypt and assembled all the Hebrew elders, and they learned that the I am that I am had heard their groaning, so they bowed down and worshipped him. Exodus chapter 5 verse 1 to 23 says, Afterwards Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said this is what the Lord, the God of Israel says, let my people go so they may worship me in the wilderness. But King Pharaoh replied, Who is the Lord, that I should obey him and let go of Israel? I do not know the Lord, and I won't let go of Israel. Pharaoh didn't believe in the God of Israel because he worshipped a different God, a different type of God. He worshipped the Egyptian gods. He also relied on magic. The God of Israel was a different God to him. And Moses, so he said, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob met with us. He wants us to take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to go and pray and offer him sacrifices, or else he will strike us with plagues or swords. Pharaoh also replied, Why are you taking these people away from their labor, Moses? After that, King Pharaoh decided to increase the workloads of the Israelites because they were his slaves. He told them, Go back to work. And he said, Look, the people of the land are now numerous, and you are stopping them from work. King Pharaoh then increased the workloads of the slaves. He instructed the slave drivers and foremen to no longer supply the slaves with straws to make bricks. He wanted the slaves to gather the straws by themselves, and he wanted to make sure that the slaves make the same amount of bricks at the end of the day, regardless of the new order. King Pharaoh called the Israelites lazy for crying and wanting to go into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He made sure that their jobs were harder than before, so they wouldn't focus on the messages brought by Moses and Aaron. The slaves heard about the new orders from King Pharaoh, and they all scattered all over Egypt together stable to use for straw. They were beaten for not fulfilling their duties. So Israel decided to complain to King Pharaoh. The Hebrew foremen complained to Pharaoh as to why he was punishing them. They told Pharaoh, It is not our fault that we are unable to fulfill our duties at the end of the shift, and our jobs have been made even harder. You are not supplying us with straws. Our responsibilities have been multiplied. Then Pharaoh called them lazy for requiring them to go in the wilderness to sacrifice to their God. It is not easy to work for someone who doesn't understand what labor is. It was easy for King Pharaoh to call the Israelites lazy because everything was done for him. He was born in royalty. He had never done hard labor. He went from being a prince to becoming a king. He succeeded his father. His social status gave him so much power over people, and the slaves had to obey him and submit to him. He did not know the history of the Israelites and how they ended up in Egypt. He didn't know the history of Joseph and what Joseph did to the nation of Egypt. Pharaoh couldn't let go of the Hebrew Israelites because he was dependent on their labor. They built his country. His livelihood was dependent on the slaves. As also the Lord promised Moses in the wilderness of Mount Horeb that he would harden the heart of Pharaoh before he could let go of his people. God wanted to show Pharaoh his mercy and signs and wonders before he could actually let go of the Israelites to go into the promised land. Then Pharaoh told the Hebrew slaves, now go back to work and find the straws by yourselves, because I won't supply you with any straws anymore. At this moment, the Hebrew elders realized they were in so much trouble. So they departed from Pharaoh's sight and found Moses and Aaron waiting to meet with them. And they say to Moses and Aaron, may the Lord look upon you and judge you. You have made us a stench to Pharaoh and his officials, and he and his officials have put swords in their hands to kill us. Moses felt so bad, and he returned into the presence of the Lord and said, God, why have you sent me to this place? Ever since I came back to Egypt, it's as if I have added so much pain to these people. Ever since I came back, these people are in so much trouble, and Pharaoh has been punishing them severely. And so Moses, in his understanding and in his thought, he believed, or he thought that when God told him that go back to Israel because you will deliver my people, in his thought he thought God would just deliver them right away. He wanted God to act according to his own understanding and his own plans. But we can't rush God. As God says in the book of Isaiah chapter 55 verse 8, it says, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither your ways my ways. The Hebrew Israelites doubted God because their living conditions worsened in Egypt. Moses didn't know what to do, but just go back to God and ask, why are you sending me here? If I'm having to multiply these people's torture. But God says, wait for my timing, because God's timing is divinely planned. We can't rush God. He acts according to his own plan. No matter what we do in life, we might pray and have prayer requests to God, but God will act according to his timing. Thank you so much for tuning in to Black Victors. I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye.